Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Miruna Dragmir, CMO at Planable. Hi, Miruna. So happy to have you today, and thank you for taking out time.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Miruna, I really want to dive down deep into like what you do. Like talk about social media, collaboration. But before that, it would be great, if you could, introduce yourself and Planable to our viewers.
Yeah. So as you've said, I'm the CMO at Planable at the moment. I've been here getting close to the 4-year anniversary. So it's been a while, and I joined super early. And before Planable, I was part of Uber's marketing team. And before that, the way I started my professional life was at Oracle as part of the social media team. So it has an interesting loop to it. My career, the fact that Planable is a social media collaboration tool, which made me relate to the problem that the company is solving very fast during the interview process, as I myself being part of a 16 people, I think about 20 people team at Oracle. I really got the struggles and the bumps that come with social media.
So I mean, I understand, how the experience at Oracle, and then like Planable would have helped. But like day to day wise and experience wise, how has the shift been from like Uber, Oracle to now Saas? Saas is a totally different ball game. So how has that experience been?
Yeah, I think it helped me honestly a lot, even if it's a very different. The main difference is that Uber is very B2C and Planable is very B2B. And the fact that Uber in itself had the marketplace difficulties with it, right? Because we had to always kind of balance out the drivers with the riders.
Yeah.
But back in my day at Uber, it was a very data-driven team and very growth marketing kind of mindset to it. And it was all about data. It was all the actions that we made, all the acquisition tactics had some sort of insight behind them. And I learned a lot from that experience. I mean, the level of data smart that you could get if you wanted to was quite high. I remember we used to kind of SQL our way into finding the right metrics, the right insights that we were looking for. And that I kind of took that with me, all the lessons learned there at Planable. And I mean, at the beginning, there was a struggle with it because there's only so much data you have at first, since you don't have that much usage at the beginning when you're just starting out. But afterwards, it really helped me make the decisions that, as a CMO, you have to make. What tactics are you going to introduce? What's the long-term strategy? What are you going to do this year? All of that kind of my geekiness and my love for data and everything I learned at Uber helped me take that and have the data focus at all times.
I understand. What does a typical marketing team for a SaaS look like?
I think the way I split the marketing mindset at Saas it depends on the business model and the way they drive revenue. If it's a SaaS with a big ticket price, very often it turns into a sales driven SaaS. And in that case, the marketing team kind of fills a different role. What it has to do is bring as many leads as possible and smooth out the sales process. What you want to do is make the brand, recognizable, aware, bring awareness so that the sales team kind of has an easier job and they don't have to be that kind of, what is this? What are you doing? But if it's a marketing driven SaaS, and that usually happens when the average ticket size is a bit lower. It's more a self-service kind of business model, and it doesn't necessarily have to go to the sales team. In that case, it's usually a marketing driven business, and that turns into growth marketing most often and most successfully. And the way most growth teams are split is they kind of unbundle the acquisition and retention. That's kind of the easiest way to look at it. You have people fully 100% focused on acquisition and 100% focused on retention. And that helps in many ways, because otherwise you're always going to prioritize acquisition and never retention. And that's a very slippery slope. Yeah, that's kind of how our team looks like at the moment. We have about 4 people full on acquisition. We have 1 person for now fully focused on retention. And then obviously there's me, who's just in everything, but that's, that's just natural.
Understand. Well, tell us more about Planable, like what is its USP? How is it different?
Yeah, so Planable is a social media collaboration platform. What we do is that we offer this environment for all the behind the scenes to work smoothly. Because usually, just to kind of bring a bit of context, before a post can go live, there's like 5-10 steps that happen. So you usually have your team, the people that are actually creating the posts or thinking about the editorial calendars. Then you have all kinds of stakeholders, such as the designer or the PR team or the brand team, or so many other people that kind of contribute to that editorial calendar with ideas and feedback. So you kind of crowdsource your way into a calendar. And after that, you usually have to collect feedback from either managers for the purpose of simply giving their input and ensuring that everything is okay. But depending on the industry, you could also have an approval process that involves the legal team, for example, if you're in a very regulated industry. So again, it's a multi-layered process. And to give the context that I was looking for, that usually happens in spreadsheets,
right,
plus all kinds of documents and communication channels. So you usually have this monster sheet, unless you're an agency in which you have dozens of monster sheets.
Right.
And you send that sheet, hopefully a sheet, if not an Excel, across on email, and you kind of collect feedback in a huge thread, and then you have to make your way through that feedback and understand what they're talking about and what they're referring to, and they have to understand.
Tell me about sheets and comments.
Yes, exactly. And then you have that kind of cell and row number 500 and column AABB, and it gets insane very fast. And for what kind of that causes the social media manager's role to become very different from what they signed up for or from what they hoped for, right? Because they end up spending a lot of time collecting and putting pieces together rather than being creative, rather than being strategic or up to date with their industry. We talk a lot about in the social media industry, about real-time marketing and how you can react to whatever is happening. But that becomes very impossible if you have so many other administrative tasks to handle. So that's kind of the problem that we launched ourselves at. And the way we solve it is that we offer one environment in which people can both create, plan their content, invite everyone involved, anyone who could have any kind of input, and then from the same place, gather feedback, gather approvals, and then finally schedule it and publish the content.
Right. Well, during your tenure, you have grown 35x in revenue, and the trend is still upwards. What has been the main driving force behind this growth?
Yeah, I think along the way, what we managed to do right, although I don't even know if I can say that it was fully planned or not. Some things just happen in an organic and hopefully successful way. But I think what we managed to do right is strike a balance between one-time tactics and long-term evergreen revenue streams. So we have the performance marketing, which I don't necessarily find to be evergreen, because it's a clear transactional tactic, right? The more you put in, the more you get out. And we managed to find a successful model with that, a mathematically legit way of doing things, a constant ROI and so on. But we also invested in SEO from the beginning, which I know you're an expert in. And at the beginning, it brought close to no results whatsoever. Yeah. But for some reason, we decided to keep at it. And sooner or later, we found it started bringing real customers constantly. So it became a revenue stream that's more or less evergreen. I mean, you obviously have to keep your articles updated, and you have to revamp them, and you have to constantly do link building. But end of day, that's a piece of content that brings you customers with little to no effort from your side once you've managed to make it rank. So this is kind of this balance helped us. And then we focused on the right things at the right time, I think. So in the very early on, to be honest, we kind of didn't know what's going to work and whatnot. So we went through the very common behavior of just, let's do it all as much as we can, and we'll see what comes out of it. But then after a year or so, or 2 years, I think, of doing this, and when we finally kind of began to see a constant wave of new customers, which kind of allowed us the peace of mind to evaluate what we were doing. Mm-hmm. At that point in time, we looked at the most important revenue streams for us. And we focused for an entire year to simply scale those.
Right.
We made the dramatic choice of just almost giving up on anything else and just focused on what really demonstrably worked. And that was, performance and SEO and content. And we just, decided to take that to, invest 30% more, get 30% more, and so on and so forth, and keep that rate. And I think only 20% of our time during the past year has gone into experimenting.
Right. Makes sense. I think that's also, one thing a lot of people get wrong, right? I mean, I know a lot of things work, and, normally marketers try to test everything at one time, and then ultimately they're not maximizing anything, right? So you can have multiple tests going on, but if something is working, you need to first fully expand that and maybe, kind of plan it well to actually get the ROI that you're looking for.
Yeah, you have to take it step by step. It's always this, it depends. There are businesses that do it differently. There are businesses, and Saas especially, that kind of raise billions from the beginning almost, and just spray and pray, you just go on TV, Subway, all over, whatever. Customers are going to come if you have the product market fit, and if you just, again, spray and pray. And that kind of model works if you have a lot of money. And you'll see this if you look at any company that had a successful IPO, you'll see that after the IPO, what they first did was scale down on all their investments, mostly because 90% of them actually didn't really work or didn't have a positive ROI. So you can then think at ROI and look at your efficiency and whatnot. But that's kind of, I think, what 1% of companies get that kind of investment and want to go that route. You then have the 99% that just have normal, decent investments in which you have to be rational about your investments in order to not die after a few months.
Right. Since the holiday season is here, talking about holiday campaigns, what makes a successful holiday campaign?
Yeah, I think it's quite a difficult topic, although it doesn't seem like it is, because there's a lot of noise during holidays from all brands. I think there are very few brands that don't make special campaigns or special tactics during the holiday season. So I think the difficult part is to find a way to stand out from the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in an efficient way, in an interesting way that kind of fits your brand and attracts the customers. It is an important season for most industries because people are very open to buy, right? People have their wallets ready. They have they're good. They have good finances. They have budget, especially dedicated to buying presents. Just have to find your way. What are you solving for them during the holiday season? I don't think that, just doing a discount campaign is the secret to all to all holiday seasons. I think you just have to figure out how you help them get through this period. For us, for example, it could be that for Planable, it could be that, a holiday, again, it's very busy for most marketers. So what we can say is that, you have to prepare for them and become efficient. But it wouldn't necessarily be too smart for us if we do that during the Christmas season because it's way too late. So we did a content marketing campaign that's kind of evergreen, and we launch it about August, September every year because that's about the time that you start planning all your holiday campaigns, and it's kind of a kit for all marketers. So that was our way to do a campaign during the holidays or regarding the holidays that offered value to our customers. If you have a jewelry store, it's most probably a lot more about right before Christmas, get a, late time present or something customized or whatnot. It's just about the problem that you solve.
What do you mean by social media guidelines, and how important, are these to have?
Yeah, so we recently launched a piece about this, an article on our blog about social media guidelines. What it's really about is that after any size, regardless of the size of your company, you have this internal way of getting your message spread more, right? And that is your employees. Your employees have their own fan bases, even if it's just their moms and friends.
Yeah.
It's a few people that may or may not be part of your audience. So you have this way of using in a good way your employees. But what happens most often after a certain size is that it gets so crisp, it gets so regulated, this part of sharing social media. And either employees just don't share anymore because they just don't want to get into it. They really don't want to complicate their minds with what they could do wrong, or they simply copy paste it all. And just, what, if I just share the same message you did, I can't go wrong, which defeats the purpose because people are more effective on social media because they're genuine, because they're looked at by their friends, and because they have an interesting thing to share. If they copy paste, it's no longer, it's obvious that it's a corporate message. So social media guidelines can help you kind of ease things. It can help you stay protected if you just clearly state a few things, such as, don't get into fights with trolls that swear about the company, and don't say, don't give any confidential information on social media, which are very, straightforward things. And other than that, you can help them find their own voice when talking about the company. And that's what social media guidelines are. And it can also be, you can also kind of build a system in which your most visible employees, you can help them. The social media team can help them. I know that there are companies that actually do this. They have kind of people that they decide they're going to build a brand for. They're going to help them build their own personal brand because they're credible in their industry. And they get help from the social media team to build that brand. And there's a balance between their own voice and the company's interest.
Right. Talking about like various forms of content, videos are becoming, very popular. They're effective as well. Where do you find like videos most effective?
I think at this point, anywhere really. I don't think there are many places in which videos aren't that effective unless it's kind of the on the go environment in which you want to be more connected to your audio rather than your video. But social is pretty much all about video now. It has been for some time, but it keeps growing. If I think back when I was at Oracle, video was still the main concern for most social media marketers. So that's, I don't know, 6 years ago. But it's still the central point. It's just now it comes in more formats, more ways. It's 15 seconds videos or 1 hour long videos. It's the way to share information or to entertain or to anything. But what I think is constantly hard is to make it scalable. And I think brands should they should trust their audience more, that they're not necessarily looking for insane quality videos, but they're looking for insane quality content. So it's more important what the video contains than how professional it's made. You can have $1 million studio and say nothing in a video and it's not going to help in any way.
Right, right. Also like, content, like again, marketers and companies are creating a lot of content. But then, you also need to have a system in place where you are ensuring that, as a brand, you're producing content that resonates well with the target audience. I mean, how do you strategize it? Or, as a CMO, how do you take care of that?
There's two parts of it. The first, I think it's the topic, right? That's the most important thing. You have to ensure that what you're telling people is actually useful for them. And it's good for you too. So that's kind of that Venn diagram of what people want to know and what you want to say, which I think is honestly the simplest concept. But I think so many teams actually fail at it, and myself included. So I think a lot of the first iterations of our content marketing did not necessarily meet that intersection. We thought it did, but it didn't, because what we did was always start with the things that we found SEO wise, the keywords. And we thought, okay, so this is obviously interesting to our audience. They want to find freelancers. That's great. We can write about that. The part in which we declared or understood if it's part of our interests too is where we failed, honestly. We kind of wrote about anything our audience was interested in, but because there was no intent in it, because people didn't really look for our solution or anything that we were offering, only the free content, right, it didn't bring results. So I think that's a huge part of it. The intent has to be strong. You have to think about not necessarily only in the keywords, but in the mindset that that person is in. I mean, if someone's looking for a freelancer at this point, they're not looking for a tool to manage with that freelancer. It's a long way to go. They have to find them, hire them, work with them for a while, and maybe after that, think about technology. So really, I think intent is a huge part of it. And in terms of just finding the topics, I feel like the information is out there. It's groups, it's social media communities, it's people write to you most probably. It's the SEO that gives you a lot of that information. You just have to look for it and outsource it. And you can also ask people. That's a very obvious one that people skip.
Right. Any special, tips or advice you would like to, give to like social media marketers or content, planners to, kind of create editorial calendars?
Start with what you're trying to say and go to the value that brings. It doesn't this fear of being too salesy that we all have can become a bit irrational. End of day, whatever you're selling, in theory, it provides value in itself, right? Because that's what's a product market fit. You provide value to some people looking for that solution. So start with that value, and offer people information about that and complementary information around whatever you're selling. So that's kind of the obvious, start with the low hanging fruits. That's the advice that I'd give.
Right. What are your thoughts on influencer marketing? Does it help every business?
Probably not every business. I'm sure there are so many industries that just, it's not about that, especially the big B2B businesses in which you have, I don't know, oil businesses. I really doubt influencers can help with that. In my own experience, it's also, it depends on where you are at the company and what your purpose is. If your purpose is to go big and make brand awareness, it doesn't really matter at this point for you if it's the essential core audience or not. Then go big, go to the big influencers and just launch whatever you want to launch. But if you first want to kind of prove ROI, and if you want to find customers and acquisition, then I would more likely go to the small influencers that have a very well-defined niche, which is very rare for big influencers to have a clearly super segmented audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, micro influencers, I think, work, better for such cases. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what are the top three signals that should be leveraged, to help your SEO?
You mean like finding what people are looking for, or?
So yeah, I mean, from SEO point of view, I mean, how do you kind of, leverage your social media to even help your SEO?
I think firstly to crowdsource your topics, again, to just look at what people are saying on social, just do some listening in your audience, find the influencers in your industry, and also just the people, again, through communities, groups. You should be a stalker in all the groups that your audience is in, and don't necessarily join groups just to plaster your message on top, but simply looking at what they post is going to give you a very good idea on what they're interested in. That's kind of what we led us to, and I'm not necessarily looking for a plug, but just giving an example of how we do that. We launched now yesterday a pricing calculator for agencies that offer social media services.
Right.
So what that does for us is, the first thing, it's obviously very well targeted towards our audience, a segment of our audience, agencies that offer social media services, right? And the way we reached that is that we decided, okay, so we want to build something dedicated to a part of our segment, social media agencies. That's a segment for us. The next question was, what could it be that they really want to know? So SEO research was a part of it, just looking at volume for keywords. But even starting to look for those keywords can be difficult. What do you start with? What agency? Agencies don't normally use agency in their keywords. So we looked at groups. We just joined a bunch of digital marketing agencies groups on Facebook and looked at their questions. What were their pressing struggles? And pricing was a huge part of that. People just always asked each other, what do you price for this? How much do you offer for this? How do you go about an offer? So we just partner up with a pricing expert and built a calculator for them to make it really easy. So that's kind of how we use social to find our ideas.
Right. What about TikTok? We see like TikTok being used a lot, even like some people are, finding it very successful, even from lead gen point of view. I mean, what are your thoughts on TikTok?
Yeah, I think it can definitely be very successful. I think, as with any social network, it's important to really understand it before you go on it, to avoid that cringe factor of simply trying to fit into the crowd with whatever your brand message is. To spend a lot of time on it, and again, think about how you can fit in and not show up to people just for the sake of showing up.
Right. Well, Miruna, thank you so much for your time. I know we are short on time. You have another call after this, but I like playing a quick rapid fire in the end, like around three, four questions, whatever comes to your mind. Just say it, and you ready?
Yeah, good.
Describe yourself in three words.
Ambitious, funny, and obsessed with data.
Well, that was quick. Uh, Texting or talking?
Talking.
Who is your favorite superhero?
Spider-Man.
Are you a morning person or a night person?
Depends on the day.
Okay, but like any inclination, like do you like,
Morning, most likely. Yeah.
okay, okay. Favorite day of the week?
Thursday.
All right. Well, Miruna, thank you so much. That was, a good rapid fire. Overall, a very good chat. You really, shared some knowledge bombs with us, and I'm definitely, excited to, see what the viewers have to say about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and I hope they like it.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.